Hello, good morning students. Today we are going to see concepts in biostatistics as a part of your course curriculum. I am Dr. Prasad Dandekar and we will be beginning with the unit 2 of your biostatistics syllabus, which is nothing but a descriptive statistics. Today we are going to see some concepts in biostatistics. We are going to begin with module 1 or unit 1, for which the syllabus as per your syllabus copy is as under. We will begin with studying with the concepts of statistic and population. We will see how to draw a sample from a population, and we will see what are different data types, qualitative data, quantitative data, and their different subtypes. Followed by, we will see how to collect and scrutinize the data, how to design questionnaire, and how to represent the data using various diagrammatic and graphical representation tools. We will see how to distribute the data, what are frequency distributions, and how to represent those frequency distribution using histograms, family and frequency polygon. We will see also different data representation and graphical representation tools like stem and leaf chart, box plot, and Ogee curves. We will end up with measures of central tendency and measures of dispersions, followed by skewness and kurtosis. To begin with, we will see the concepts of population and sample. Now there is one basic question: why there is need to sample? There are several reasons for sampling. First of all, the primary goal of sampling is to get representative. As we will see in the next slide, we will see the definition of population. We will come to know that population is very large and which is sometimes not appropriate to select all the population for studying or getting answers to our question which is under scrutiny. So what it is done generally from a population, a fixed representative sample is taken from the population which represents the population correctly, and that population or that group of individuals from an entire population is studied to form a sample, and that sample is studied so as to get an answer to our research question in hand. What are the advantages of sampling is, first and major advantage of sampling is we can study the smaller group and produce accurate generalizations about the population at large. So we can study some smaller group which is selected by a sampling method from a population, and we can study its characteristics, its behavior to get to know or get an idea about the larger group. Technically, so as the sampling method chooses the samples from the population, appropriate sampling method, proper sampling method ensures highly representative samples which are very much like the population. Hence, you can study those highly representative samples to answer your questions about the population or to make some calculated judgments or hypotheses on the population itself. Now, what is a population? Population is any group of individuals not restricted to numbers, type, and other categories which are essential for your study characteristics, which may answer your question in hand. So, for example, entire university students can be a population, people in one particular nation or country can be a population, number of patients admitted in one particular hospital can be a population, as long as it helps you in answering your research question. There are three different types of population. First is finite population, second is infinite population, and third one is hypothetical population. As the word suggests, finite population contains the finite units, or you know the number of members or number of individuals from the population which is countable, fixed and finite. In infinite population, it contains infinite, uncountable number of individuals, and in hypothetical population, it contains imaginary, hence non-countable, unreal, non-existent members in the population. For example, hypothetical population may be number of stars in the sky. That could be a population for a hypothetical population, or it's a population of heads and tails obtained by tossing a coin by infinite number of times. Now we will begin with the sampling. There are two types of sampling, qualitative sampling and quantitative sampling. Qualitative sampling is a sampling technique in which each unit in population does not have a specific probability of getting selected. Rather, depending on the qualities present in the sample, the chance of that particular individual to be selected as sample either increases or decreases. In other words, non-probability sampling does not select samples in a mathematically random way. There is no mathematical method or numerical method involved in the selection of qualitative sample. It's wholly and solely based on certain qualitative attribute or sampling aspect present in that sample, which determines whether that individual will be selected in the sampling or not. Due to which, due to certain additional or lack of qualities in one particular individual, this particular qualitative sampling produces samples that are not representative of your population. So, you may have the correct sample based on the qualities you demand, but in that process of sampling, you erroneously may choose a population or may choose a sample which is not representative of your population, and hence from qualitative samples you can't generalize about the population as the samples are qualitative based on your choice. So there are different types of qualitative samples. First is purposive or selective or judgmental sample. Sampling done in a way of having some judgment or some selection or some purpose in the selector's mind. Those samples are called as purposive samples. Researcher begins with specific characteristic in mind, and as per that characteristics, he chooses sample from the population entirely qualitatively, not in a mathematical random way. Hence, it is called as qualitative purposive sampling. For example, if I want to study the impact of vaccination of COVID-19, then invariably I will choose the population which is already vaccinated by COVID-19 vaccine. So that quality I will see by sampling my sample from the population. Another type is called as quota sampling. Quota is nothing but a set of categories on which you are going to sample. Subgroups are then created based on the characteristics, based on age, gender, and then number of individuals from each subgroups are assigned. So the set of qualities are listed, and according to list of those certain qualities, samples are selected. Hence, it is called as quota sample. It is highly cost effective and time efficient. All the qualitative sampling more or less are highly efficient and time saving. But on the other side, you cannot make a generalization about the population. There are two types of quota sampling: controlled quota sampling, in which subcategories are restricted and the researcher itself has a choice on or restrictions on how much and how many types of samples are to be selected in quota sampling. On the contrary, uncontrolled quota means choosing sample numbers at will. There are no restriction in how many numbers in each particular quota has to be there. So for example, you can take this example as your quota sampling example of quota sampling. We are going to recruit 500 respondents, and we are determining quotas with respect to age, gender, and employment status. You can have nested quotas. For example, out of 150 unemployed people, 100 must be students. So like that way, you can enlist all the qualities required for the sampling, whether they are going to be male or female, whether they are going to be elderly, what is the age group, what is the employment status of the samples which are going to be required, and accordingly you can sample the individuals in those predetermined qualities or categories which are called as quota. So how to perform quota sampling? First, divide the population into subgroups, decide your categories, decide your qualities which you want in your samples, and distribute one by one. Take the population and distribute those population into subgroups. find out the weightage of subgroup, which quality is more important than another. So enlist the qualities as per the weightage and rank them by giving some ranking number or giving some weightage, and evaluate the proportion. If you are going for uncontrolled, decide whether you are going for controlled quota or uncontrolled quota sampling method, and accordingly recruit the individuals or select the individuals in each subgroup you have selected, and maintain the proportion correctly using a type of sampling method. Select appropriate sample size. You should know where to stop sampling in each particular subcategory, and then conduct surveys according to quotas defined. Once you are defined the quotas, then conduct surveys and hire people and check whether correct number of individuals, correct type of individuals are getting recruited in your sampling frame. Second method of qualitative sampling is nothing but snowball sampling or chain referral sampling. It works by referring reference of first research participants to another. So as a researcher, you are not having a burden of recruiting all your individuals for your sampling. What you do, you recruit only first individual, then tell that first individual to recruit another one similar to your characteristics. So those first two individuals then recruit next two individuals, and so on and so forth. Your chain of sampling grows like a snowball coming down from the top of hill. Hence it is called as a snowball or chain referral sampling. So it works by reference of first respondent towards the next respondents, and third respondents, fourth respondents, so on and so forth, till your number of samples which you intend to draw from population based on quality desired is fulfilled. Correct? So you recruit the first person based on the qualities you want. Then that person, you tell that person to recruit the similar person to your qualities and gather samples. So in essence, researcher's sample builds and become larger as study continues, much as a snowball builds itself and becomes larger as it rolls downhill. Where it is used in such examples where it is very hard to post an advertisement or conduct a survey or have a questionnaire to recruit the samples or collect the data. What are those topics? Those topics are either socially taboo topics or the topics which cannot be discussed out in the society. So, especially this sampling strategy is especially useful when a researcher wishes to study a stigmatized group of behavior. All these examples are good examples of socially stigmatized group of behavior for which you can recruit the sample using snowball sampling. The third and last method of consecutive sampling for today's lecture is consecutive sampling or convenience sampling or availability sampling. We check the availability as per our convenience, and most useful and exploratory research with the students project where the probability of sampling getting the right individuals through the sampling is very large, very small. Okay, so if you have been ever interviewed by a fellow student for a class project, you have likely you are likely to be a part of this type of convenience sampling. In convenience sampling, what we do, we just simply take samples based on our convenience from the population. Why convenience offer one major benefit? Major benefit of convenience sample is only convenience. As per your convenience, you are collecting the sample and you are taking the samples out from the population. So you have quick data collection. You have very few rules to follow. You are very easy. It is very easy for you to sample, and it is a readily available sample. It is very low cost, and it is very easy to do an inexpensive method of sampling because it just relies on only one quality, which is called as convenience. Next type of a qualitative sampling is a consecutive sampling in which you continue taking samples one after another until all accessible subjects as a part of population are completed. So essentially what does it mean? You have a population in your hand. What does it mean? You have a population at your hand over here like this. From this population, let us denote population as P, from which you are drawing a sample which is a small s, which is a small subset of your population. You are going to consecutively sample all these individuals from the population one by one. Suppose there are 100 individuals in a population, and you are going to continue the sample S1, S2, S3 like that. S1 will be of 10 individuals, S2 will be of 10 individuals, S3 will be of 10 individuals, so on and so forth till S10, which constitutes totality of your population, in which there are 100 individuals. Right? So in this method, you are going to sample and sample and sample for all those 10 times. Each sampling trial contains sampling of 10 individuals based on desired quality. That's how your consecutive sampling works. What are the advantages and disadvantages of consecutive sampling? It is very easy to employ and deploy. It has less opportunity for manipulation as you are completing all the individuals one by one due to confusion, because the staff or the persons you have recruited for sampling already know that they want to finish the sampling. They will be finishing the sampling in regular intervals, so that entire population is going to be get covered. Major disadvantages is it is not based on randomization. You have to cover all the samples, and it is not random way, and essentially it is not a sample which you are covering entire population in a stepwise manner. So that disadvantage is still there. You have to complete all the population, but advantage is you can have a good generalizability. That means whatever samples you will draw from the consecutive sampling will be ideally true representative of the populations. So what in this lecture what we have seen? We have seen certain types of non-probability sampling. First is the convenience sampling, consecutive sampling, judgmental or purposive sampling we have seen. Which also in conclusion what we have seen purposive sampling, where the researcher has a purpose in his mind to select sample. Hence, the researcher is judgmental about the sample. Then we have seen the quota sampling, in which the researcher decides categories of subcategories of qualities which is desirable in the sample and accordingly takes the sample. In snowball or chain referral sampling, as a third type we saw, in which researcher only recruits the first sample and the next sample or grows by a thing which is called as a chain referral. First sample will recruit the second sample based on his similar qualities. Second sample will recruit the third one, so on and so forth. So the chain continues. Snowball sampling is particularly used for a sampling wherein you want to study or you want to recruit the individuals for socially stigmatized behavior or socially stigmatized or taboo subjects. Third, we saw convenience sampling. We can, as per the convenience, I will not go into population at large. I will create a Google form. I will create a questionnaire. I will hand over the questionnaire, and based on the response received from the respondents, I will create my sample conveniently as per my research, my convenience as a researcher. Followed by that, last type we saw at the consecutive sampling, in which we complete all the population by systematically sampling all the individuals one by one after the another, so that it correctly represents the population. Okay. In the next lecture, we will see not quantitative sampling. To summarize, these are the four sample types, and this is the description of the each sample type, how it is selected. Okay, to end this lecture, we will see one case study on problem or solving. There is a case in which a company manufacturing toothpaste says 9 out of 10 respondents got clean teeth after using their toothpaste. So you may have seen one toothpaste ad making a claim by a toothpaste company, so such that 9 out of 10 people who use this toothpaste have healthier teeth. Those respondents were carefully, but what is the background behind that claim? Those respondents were carefully selected from a set of dentists who by nature maintain good teeth, dental hygiene and like that. In their professional career, they maintain their teeth. So that case becomes either a purposive sampling or quota sampling, convenience sampling, or all of the sampling techniques are involved in this. So think over this problem and let me know the answer, your answer to this question in the next lecture. Goodbye.